Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with the midweek update in the world of cannabis. So before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And we're going to start with a recap of the Connecticut market after its first week. As CT Insider reports from Dan Haar, CT passes 1 million in adult cannabis sales on day 4. So it seems like it's taken them a bit of time to get there. But for more information on that, after the first day of sales at 7 locations Tuesday, the State Department of Consumer Protection reported total sales of 359,000. Most of the businesses had lines at the 10 a.m. opening, and the lines abated by noon, and sales remained steady all day as stores moved customers in and out quickly and very efficiently. The $1 million threshold at 2 p.m. Friday means that 3.5 days since the Tuesday opening of adult use ganja sales, just use the word cannabis for fuck's sakes, have averaged 286,000 per day or 41,000 per day for each store, not including state and local taxes of about 20%. So obviously a lot of taxes collected that'll go back to the citizens of CT and to the state, while also highlighting that Americans want to vote with their dollars. And retailers saw a fall off, but not a significant decline as the week unfolded. And so comparing it to other markets, obviously seems quite light. The totals are for adult use sales only, not medical. But how do these early numbers stack up compared to other markets? Now, I do believe Vermont and Montana both exceeded 1 million in their first day, so wouldn't say Connecticut got anywhere close. Now, I could be wrong. I'm just spitting that off from my memory, so let me know in the comments if I am wrong on that. But the Connecticut stores far outsold the December 1 launch of Rhode Island, which is another tiny state, small like Connecticut, but much smaller. I think 1 million population with 786,000 in the first 7 days in 5 stores, according to WPRI Channel 12 in Providence. And so that's an average of 22,500 in non-medical sales per store per day in a much smaller state. But then to contrast that, the Connecticut totals fell far below the sales of Massachusetts retailers. We also say New Jersey as well. A lot of states that blew these numbers out of the water realized when they opened adult use retails in 2 locations on November 20th, 2018. There's a typo, 2,108, also a Tuesday, and those 2 stores saw an average of 222,000 per day per store for the first 5 days of operation. So obviously population does matter. That's going to help drive sales, and obviously opening legal outlets that helps compete with the black market, that also helps drive sales. But good to see Connecticut getting the ball rolling and heading in the right direction. So with that from Marijuana Moment, we got Arizona rec cannabis sales hit new monthly record as medical cannabis market continues to shrink. And so for more of a breakdown on this, you can pause to read as Marijuana Moment shares the story that first was published in the Arizona Mirror. And so you can pause for a bit of a breakdown on how the sales have gone and how much more sales are going to rec as opposed to medical. But a few things I want to sort of highlight here. And so according to the most recent numbers, the Arizona cannabis market has already sold more than 1.2 billion through October 2022, putting it on pace to easily eclipse the 1.4 billion sold in 2021. So again, overall, when we zoom out, heading in the right direction. Since rec sales began in Jan 2021, the Arizona cannabis market has totaled more than 2.6 billion in sales. So again, Americans wanting to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars, proving that you provide legal access points, they're going to turn to the legal market and put money back in the local economy. And tax revenues collected through October alone, 13.6 million for medical sales and 22.5 million for rec. That'll go back again into the state for those citizens there. Hopefully see the benefits of this as long as it doesn't go into the wrong places. But just highlighting that obviously states that have legalized, seeing the benefits already. And on that note that medical markets are shrinking, Arizona is not the only state with an ailing medical cannabis program. Michigan has seen a similar collapse of its medical market in the wake of adult rec legalization in 2019. Now this begs the question, why do we see medical go down so much when rec is legalized? Is it just because the people that needed medicinal cannabis before can just go to the store and get the same sort of cannabis that they need that will treat their ailments? I think that's more likely. What I find interesting here and is a bit lazy reporting is that the crash has been blamed on a flourishing black market. Arizona and Michigan are not New York. It's not like there's one legal dispensary and then hundreds of illegal operators selling at 1/4 of the price. That you could blame on the black market. But I would say more of it is being that there's a glut of cannabis in the marketplace that has seen prices drop in the commercial marketplace, making it cheaper for medical patients to just turn to the rec market. Now that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I do digress, so you can pause to read for a bit more of a breakdown on how the medical patients have switched over to the rec market and how that number has gone down over time. But main thing to highlight is Arizona and Michigan are going to set records for the total year in 2022 as well, while Michigan cannabis sales are expected expected to surpass $2 billion in 2023. So heading in the right direction. So thank you, Jesse Redmond, for sharing this one. Florida's medical program still growing, but at a slower rate. It's still a solid market due to the vertical integration and scale you can achieve. And when it flips to rec, Florida will be a monster as they get 120 million tourists annually with a population of about 21 million. And to think that they have about 786,000 active medical patients right now, that's it, 783. And once they can hopefully get that legalization push and pass adult use for 2024, that will be huge. But this just highlights a well-designed market that is still medical only, but continuing to grow month over month, quarter over quarter, as you can see. Every market's different. That's why you can't treat them all the same. And hopefully, some markets that do reform their laws pick from better markets like Florida, like Arizona, like Michigan, as opposed to New York and other states that have failed miserably in their rollout. And so you can pause, though, for more information on this breakdown. The data comes from Cowen. We've got this one from Jesse again, so thank you, Jesse, for sharing. Update on Illinois cannabis sales, up nicely month over month, up a bit year over year, and may improve in 2023 as more of the social equity stores start to open. As we were promised, I think is 110, hopefully starting in early 2023, so maybe by the spring we'll see some of them open. That would be ideal, obviously sooner than later, but this is also a source from Cowen. So just wanted to share this if you wanted to look through it to break down the Florida and the Illinois markets. And on top of that, happy to share from Chicago Reader that Illinois extends curbside pickup for medical patients to January 31. Why would you get rid of this if medical patients can more conveniently access cannabis by just doing curbside pickup? It makes no sense. The extension came swiftly after department issued notice about policy expiry in late December. And I do remember seeing Ben Kovler, CEO of Green Thumb Industries, tweeting about this, and it's kind of disappointing. Like, why would you just get rid of something that's working clearly for medical patients? And so just happy to report that they have extended this until the end of January. Hopefully they keep it in line, because why would you want to get rid of this? Again, it's ultimately just going to hurt those that need access to a safe and medicinal alternative. But again, happy to share that Illinois has extended this, and hopefully they'll get their head out of their asses and continue to extend it. Well, we got this one from the Columbus Dispatch. Ohio lawmakers want to add conditions eligible for medical cannabis and increase dispensaries. So good to hear out of Ohio, as lawmakers are renewing a push to overhaul the medical cannabis program ahead of a potential ballot question on rec cannabis later this year. And then so a few senators in their state introduced legislation this week that would revamp the program after a similar bill stalled in the previous General Assembly. Senate Bill 9 would allow doctors to recommend cannabis for any debilitating condition, so more ways to get it out to patients that need it and can get them off opioids. Increase the number of dispensaries, so more outlets, so more patients can get access, so more Americans will vote for legal cannabis with their dollars, and let growers expand their facilities so that MSOs can supply the demand, hopefully mom and pop businesses as well. Nonetheless, would definitely be a win for the Ohio medical market. So you can pause to read for more about what they hope to accomplish with this bill, but just wanted to scroll down to the bottom to show you the main takeaway, is that lawmakers have 4 months to consider this new bill under the initiated statute process, but they're expected to punt it. Oh, how convenient. Tell us about it, although they're expected to just punt it. At this point, groups behind the effort will gather signatures to place it before voters in November. So it seems like there's going to be a question in November 2023 in Ohio, and if they can get that on the ballot there, most likely we're going to see the citizens of Ohio vote an overwhelming yes for adult use. And so with that, just an update out of Minnesota as well from Minnesota Post, a primer on the cannabis legalization proposal that could become law in Minnesota. And so there's a lot of talk about this. They have 12 hurdles that they still have to jump through, or 11 left, but 12 committees to get through. Main takeaway, though, is according to its sponsors, it is likely to pass before the legislature adjourns in May. And so at least we have a deadline where we can expect Minnesota to possibly pass some adult use legislation through their legislature to become the 22nd state to legalize, hopefully before May. And so obviously we're January right now, February, March, April, it's not that far away. So hoping for the best. I will keep you updated, but just happy to share that Minnesota is hoping to get this done sooner than later. And so on to some information, speculation though, take it all with a grain of salt because no one knows what is going to happen. Just wanted to share any article that might be relevant to any cannabis investors out here because you obviously understand the potential in the long run. So U.S. cannabis PunchBowl news. This one comes from PunchBowl. Joyce AOC talk cannabis reform under a GOP house. Think it's too early in the year to talk about cannabis banking reform? We disagree. And so again, take this with a grain of salt because obviously they're overly optimistic, me less so. Again, planning for the worst, but hoping to be pleasantly surprised at some point, and that's totally fine with me. I can play that game as long as I need to, but more if you want to just pause to read a little bit of everything that they cover through here. Basically saying that Dave Joyce is going to pick up where Ed Perlmutter left off, but Ed didn't get much done. Will Dave, that's the main thing. And so another interesting source that I wanted to share from you, an article that I don't have a link to directly, but so follow me through this. DNBC, good article on Biden's descheduling directive, covers why it needs to be done quickly, the consequences of rescheduling on adult use markets, very little in my opinion, and why descheduling is the best outcome. And so this is from CannabisBusinessTimes.com. Now I tried to grab the article. I'm not subscribed to it, and so I'm just choosing not to subscribe to everything I don't necessarily need to, and thank you, D-Sing, for showing these screenshot photos. So I'm just going to share these. You can read through it, and if it's relevant, hopefully that's helpful. If it's not, just trying to share what could potentially be helpful for any investors on here. And so this is must-read article. Thanks DNBC Live for the tweet. Some excerpts here. Something will happen, and it may happen quickly. Well, it's technically not wrong, and we would love for this to be the case. We're obviously not holding our breath, because even for the last year, Schmuck Schumer could have put SAFE on the floor for a vote, and it would have passed and helped many people in the industry, but he didn't, because he's a piece of shit that chooses to work for Big Pharma as opposed to the American people. And so, good call, D, in saying all this. Eventually, the will of the people makes it happen, right? It should, if things are not too corrupt beyond repair. Why do legislators have the power to neglect the will of the people? Well, sadly, D, because corruption is as alive in the U.S. as it is in third world countries and anywhere else around the world. You just need billions as opposed to millions or hundreds of thousands to play, unfortunately. And so, these last few years have been a sad wake-up call, but wanted to share some clippets from this article if you wanted to pause to read. So on banking action, you can pause to read. A bit more on what Blumenauer might be planning or what he thinks is going to happen going forward. Pause to read, and then worst case scenario, Schedule 2. And still don't think that's likely, but all we can hope for is that the call from Biden to the DOJ to actually consider descheduling this sooner than later, that they might act on that. I mean, obviously, it would be beneficial for them to do it, and well, simply descheduling cannabis by taking it out of the CSA, which deems it illegal where it never belonged in the first place, would obviously benefit the largest number of Americans and solve so many domestic issues overnight. Sad reality is we're only going to get something incremental and not what we all want, because what we all want means less power and control for the government, unfortunately, right? And so I just think the longer that this does eventually take, it highlights how deep the corruption also runs in the U.S., which is not ideal, is what it is, but you have to be able to face it in order to fight it, at least my view. And so with that, I just wanted to share, as Todd Harrison shared this one from Marijuana Moment, another fluff piece, but Biden touts fulfilled promise on cannabis and calls for expungements at MLK Day event. So at least we are hearing the president of the White House talking about being more friendly towards cannabis, which is, I guess, all we can ask for in this environment. No one, I'll say it again, no one should be in federal prison for the mere possession of cannabis. No one. Which is a very easy claim to make when no one is in federal prison for mere possession, which didn't take long to figure out if you did a little bit of digging. And so while the announcement he made in November, October of last year that he was going to pardon everyone at the federal level made for good political theater, especially because there's no one with a simple possession charge at the federal level, so he didn't actually do anything. Main thing is that it's better to at least hear this positive tone coming out of the White House and the president's mouth than not at all. But what does this mean? I don't know. Reading through this, it doesn't tell us anything we already know. And so it's very sad to see that Congress has gone full FUBAR at this point, or fucked up beyond all repair. The other avenues to see any sort of reform would be the DOJ following through on the president's request to consider rescheduling it, or maybe the Supreme Court deeming the federal overhang unconstitutional. And so not many options. We're not holding our breath for that. Obviously, it sucks that Congress is incompetent and can't do their jobs, and that lobbying money has gotten too much in the way. And it'd be an easy win if the Dems actually follow through on their campaign promises, because, 91% of Americans agree that cannabis shouldn't be illegal anymore. And so Tom Engel, thanks for sharing this one from New. New from Data Progress poll finds that a majority of U.S. likely voters support federally legalizing cannabis, including most Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And so it's such an easy issue. They might as well take advantage. It'd be so stupid for them not to, but wouldn't be surprised. There's also broad support for cannabis equity. And I bet you most people don't even know what equity in this context means. And if there's broad support for equal access to opportunity in the new cannabis industry to address the harms of the war on drugs, then people would say, oh yes. But if they actually knew what the equity in this context was, they wouldn't necessarily be voting for this, because no one wants communism in America. And so more on the article down. I'll put it in the link below, or I'll put it in the description, but just wanted to pause to read this here if you wanted to take a quick look at it. And the question was, would you support or oppose the federal government legalizing of the adult use of recreational cannabis? And as more time goes on, more and more Americans seem to be on board with this issue. And so that's just the leaf plant. And so with that, Marijuana Moment shares Washington State lawmakers approve interstate cannabis commerce bill in a committee. And so the first step, Washington State Senate Committee on Tuesday approved a bill to set the state up to allow interstate cannabis commerce pending a federal policy change. And so again, this is much like I believe we saw in New Jersey, pending a federal policy change. And so could this be some foreshadowing? Obviously, we don't know, but the action comes 1 week after the panel first met to discuss the reform, in addition to proposals concerning cannabis-related employment protections, and unfortunately, that Marxist buzzword, social equity. And so Kaiser replied that she believes the interstate commerce bill and other cannabis reforms would be held in the Rules Committee until the legislator has a chance to advance equity legislation as well. And so again, this is the ability to make everyone poorer through discrimination. That's what equity is in this Marxist context, not equal access to opportunity legislation, which again, the average person seeing the word equity or equality would assume is likely going to be the case. And so just wanted to make that distinction. So don't know again what this means. Obviously, it's pending the federal overhang being removed, which we're all looking for, hopefully. And so you can pause to read for some more details about the bill. Of course, the link will be in the description below. And so with that, just wanted to share this one from Forbes as survey finds 21%, so pause to read quickly before the paywall comes back, but survey finds 21% of dry January participants use cannabis instead of alcohol. And so unfortunately it's behind a paywall. You can grab the link below if you subscribe to Forbes and wanted to read more. But essentially, as we normalize cannabis, more and more people are open to turning to it, especially when they can legally purchase it with their dollars and vote for a substance that might serve them better than alcohol. They ought to have that choice, right? And so a few other studies before we finish up. Cannabis health. So thank you for sharing this. A new study from researchers in Spain found no decline in the health of regular cannabis consumers when compared to the general population. We'd love to hear that. Booyah for more data. And regular cannabis consumers actually reported fewer health issues and use less prescription medications. And so as a byproduct, does that mean that regular cannabis consumers are actually healthier than, people that have mental health issues and turn to prescription medications for it? I'm not saying it. That might be what the study said, but link in the description from cannabishealthnews.co.uk will be below. I've also got the actual study from Mary Ann Liebert Publishers, so this will be in the description as well. But Cannabis and Public Health, a study assessing regular cannabis users through health indicators. And so you can read here, but this is in the study, first time regular cannabis consumers in Spain were assessed, as of course more countries and states are open to legalizing. And so various methods, you can pause to read for more info, but the results. Most of the indicators did not show any deterioration in the health of regular cannabis consumers compared to the general population. Ultimately, the sooner we deschedule, the sooner we can just fund more positive studies like this and get the data that we've essentially wanted for a long time. But it was observed that users suffered from more sleep problems, and about 40% of the sample would like to discontinue cannabis use, suggesting a dependence pattern, which is definitely an important finding worth acknowledging. But I do appreciate that the study doesn't blame the plant, and it considers all the multiple complicated factors as to why a person might become dependent on something. And a big one, obviously, the environment. If you're in a place where cannabis is readily available and all your friends smoke cannabis, it's hard to quit. And fortunately, though, I have been one of those people where I've been in a place with cannabis and I had to quit, and I did, and that showed me that I had more willpower than I believed. And so I do definitely think that even my cannabis use and then developing the willpower to quit cannabis at some point is much better personal development for myself than taking opioids to mask symptoms and never solving the underlying issues. And so while life is complicated, it is good to see a demographic at least acknowledge that cannabis might not be for them. And so hopefully in acknowledging this, they might develop the willpower that will serve them better for the rest of their lives. Who knows? Trying to look on the bright side. And so about 30% of the sample was able to discontinue the use of prescription medication because of cannabis. This is why Big Pharma is scared. Read that again. About 30% of the sample was able to discontinue the use of prescription medications because of cannabis. That's 30% money, profit going to cannabis companies. That's not going to Big Pharma. And so you wonder why Big Pharma is lobbying, Senate Majority Leader for both parties so hard. It's because they do not want to lose that profit. And so social support and sleep problems, and it always comes back to this, it's usually social support. If you have friends, family, you're less likely to become dependent on any sort of substance, and sleep problems, and not cannabis use. Love that. We're predictors of depression and well-being scores. And so again, the less social support you have, the more likely you are to have depression. Easy to blame it on just cannabis use, but again, not necessarily always the case. And so it seems that regular cannabis use, despite contributing to problems related to sleep quality or dependence, does not have a negative impact on public health in a manner detecting using health indicators. And so again, it's not like it makes people more sick when they're dependent on cannabis. It almost makes them realize like, oh shit, I've got a problem. I should probably stop this or try to improve it. So at least that's my takeaway. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, but I'm very happy to see this study as more data to back up what we already know and why we ought to deschedule sooner than later so that we can research the positive benefits of this plant. And so last feel-good story just to share. So thank you, Hannah Deacon. Today we celebrate Alfie's 1,000th day without seizures, thanks to his medical cannabis prescription through the NHS. And the longer we keep the war on drugs alive and keep cannabis illegal, it's a damn crime to people that need access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative that can help them live their lives again. We have a special two-part message for everyone who follows us. Please watch and share.
It's Hannah and Alfie here. We're just doing a quick film just to celebrate Alfie's 1,000th day seizure-free. Because of the medical cannabis prescription you've got from the NHS, awesome. You've had 1,000 days with no seizures, haven't you? No.
Good for you, Alfie.
And we're going to say thank you to everyone who supported us within Parliament, within the public, with doctors, with lobbyists, with everyone that has helped us to get here. I'm going to say thank you, Alfie.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So we're really, really happy today. But what we do recognise is that there's thousands of people like Alfie across the country that don't have access to NHS prescriptions. And that's why we've used the last 4 years to try and campaign and help other people, haven't we? Why Alfie's been well, Mummy can do that. But we know it's not good enough. We know that there's so much work to be done. And we know that there's lots of people out there who celebrate 1 day, 1 hour with no seizures.
So we'd love to see another child getting their life back, and there is a petition down here from change.org. Now, it is for the UK, but I'm just going to put the link in the description if you wanted to sign it. I'm from Canada. I'm going to try and sign it if I can. Just wanted to share it because it is with the video, but just highlighting that there's another child getting their life back thanks to medical cannabis. But their sad reality is that there's many people around the world that likely can't get access to this and would benefit from it, and it's straight criminal that, you know, the plant remains illegal and criminalized as it is. And so just a reminder that anytime the government tells you that their laws are for public health, remember, it's absolute bullshit, because if it was, cannabis would have been descheduled a long time ago, probably many other substances as well, and we'd know a lot more that'd be beneficial, and we'd have a much healthier planet, I would imagine. So that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.